displaying the glory of God's creation by exploring America one park at a time. Welcome to Parking Full Time with Big Dave, the park's professor. First hole. The par and distance are at the top of the screen. This hole plays moderately uphill, and even though this is a densely wooded area, it has a fairly wide fairway that appears to be a utility corridor. The fairway is paved with large pieces of gravel, which doesn't really affect your disc, but it does make it a little hard to walk on, and I guess could damage your disc if your disc landed on the gravel the wrong way. I do want to welcome you back to Parking Full Time. I am Big Dave, the park's professor. This hole also has a couple of doglegs. We just went around a slight dogleg left, and then we're going to have a slight dogleg right to get over to the basket. The basket is offset off of the utility corridor, and there's a fairly narrow gap here to get through the trees to get to the basket. This is a really nice opening hole. There's the view back to the tee from behind the basket. The second hole continues further down the utility corridor. It's a little bit longer and a little bit flatter than the first hole, but it's very similar in spirit to the first hole. Let me say a word about the disc golf courses here at this park. This park has two 18-hole disc golf courses. There's the Cliffside Course, which we're walking about right now. The other course is called the Lakefront Course. And the Lakefront Course starts at a completely different point than the Cliffside Course, even though the two courses do overlap at one point that we'll see on the back nine of this course. The Cliffside Course is more heavily wooded, and despite its name, it's actually the flatter of the two courses. There is a clifftop river overlook to the left of the third basket on this course, but there aren't any real cliffs on this course. We're coming up to the second basket. The second basket, like the first basket, is offset from the utility corridor. There's the basket and the view back to the tee. Now we head into the dense woods where we're going to stay for the next 5 holes. The third hole is one of the tightest holes on this course. It's a slight dogleg left, so you're going to need a slight right to left disc flight to get anywhere near the basket on just one throw. But you can see this is a really tight fairway and there are a lot of trees up here, so it's going to take a really good throw to get anywhere close to the basket on the first throw. Relative to par, this is one of the hardest holes on this course. Now the fourth tee is behind the basket and down into a little half-pipe ravine. You actually walk down the steps behind the fourth basket and then walk back up the fourth fairway to get to the fourth tee. The fourth hole plays directly up the bottom of this half-pipe type structure that looks like an old railroad grade or roadbed. There's only this one tree directly between the tee and basket, and given this hole's length, this hole is aceable, although it would take a really good throw. This is possibly the most memorable hole on this course. The fifth hole is another super tight and heavily wooded hole. It's short for a par 4, but considering the tightness, and considering the fact that most of the hole plays uphill, once we get past the midpoint of the hole coming up here, 4 is actually a reasonable par for this hole. I should mention that the 36 holes that comprise the two courses today consist of 27 original holes and 9 new holes. All of the holes we've seen so far are among the 9 new holes. Honestly, my 3 or 4 favorite holes among the 36 holes at this park are all over on the Lakefront Course. But it's also the case that probably my 5 or 6 least favorite holes among the 36 are also over on the Lakefront Course. So which course you like better just depends on which style of course that you prefer. Now the course route turns 180 degrees, and the 6th hole plays back downhill in the opposite direction as the previous hole. This hole has a fairly tight fairway, but it is downhill and it has a fairly generous ceiling. And so a good throw with a slight right to left disc flight should set up a birdie opportunity on this hole. There's the basket, and there's the view back to the tee from behind the basket. The 7th hole is another super tight, heavily wooded hole, and it plays down and up across a little swale. The good news is this is the last super tight hole for at least a little while. I captured this video on Tuesday, October the 31st, and it was a chilly morning with temperatures in the upper 40s when I came here. I only saw a couple of other groups out here playing disc golf. I did run into another couple that was hiking through the woods. There aren't any established trails or official trails on this course that would pose a safety hazard, but again, I did find an older couple that was just walking around and enjoying a walk through the woods. The 8th hole plays out of this chute of shrubs, but then we're going to enter an open mowed grass area, and it's kind of nice to bust out of the woods and break into the open for a little bit. There are 2 baskets on this hole. There is the long basket, which you can kind of see off to the right in the distance. We're actually going to walk to the short basket. The short basket is off to the left behind those 2 large pine trees that you see off to the left. Also, this is the first of the original 27 holes that I mentioned earlier. All the holes up to this point were new holes. This is the first of the original holes. It's kind of nice to break out into the open after all of the heavily wooded holes that we've been playing. I don't know that this is one of my favorite holes on this course, but it's a nice change of pace. The 9th hole, and of course final hole on the front 9, goes back into the woods. It's a gradual uphill hole, and even though it's heavily wooded, the fairway is actually fairly generous for a hole this short. You can see the basket up here to the right. I do want to thank you for watching. Parking full time would not be anything without the people who watch. I realize that every day, and I thank you every day. Also, I do not make any monetary compensation for anything I do for this project, and so all I get are your likes, your subscribes, your views, and your comments, and I do appreciate all of those things. That is the end of the front 9. I will see you on the back 9. Until then, have a great afternoon, take care, and Lord bless.